Okay, we are privileged today to have as our speaker someone who is a co-founder of this community, and she goes all the way back and knows all the secrets. I'm not sure if she's going to be telling them all, but just hold on, we'll see. It is Therese Solimeno. Therese, come on up.
Thanks, Brian. I'll tell all the secrets unless the right kind of money sort of comes my way. Actually, what Brian didn't mention about why today is such a special day is because 23 years ago yesterday was the first time that Unity 5 cities gathered at Peaceful Point, and they said it wouldn't last. And here we are. And I just want to acknowledge some of the people that were part of that group, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later as part of my talk, but Martha and Patty and Jack Morales, and Chris Gary, of course, and Kevin and Kristen Halber, and Owen and Jeannie Wires, and just a ton of people who had the vision and the courage to step away from what wasn't working and decide that there was something that would work better for us. And that's how this community got started. And it was established as a participatory ministry, which meant that we try to give the opportunity to anyone and everyone who wants to be part of it to have a say and have activities. And I'm happy to say that 23 years later, I think we've still got that, you know. And anyway. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to tell you a story. I don't think it's something anyone in this room can relate to, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. There's a person in my life that's been in my life for decades, and I love her dearly, and she drives me crazy. And it's been noted that probably because she's a lot like me, but. But in any case, about 2 months ago, I went over to her house. We were going to spend the day riding bikes or whatever we were going to do. And not too long after I got there in the morning, something triggered her to yell at me. And it doesn't really matter what it was. What stands in my mind was two things. One was I didn't happen to agree with what she was yelling at me about. But more importantly, I didn't like that she was yelling at all. I grew up in a family of yellers, a big Italian family. Yelling is part of how they communicate. In fact, most of the time, yelling is the only way they would communicate. But the ironic part about that is that there was a lot of yelling, but not a lot of listening. And as I got older, and especially when I got into this practice, nothing frightens me in terms of subject matter. You can approach me to talk about anything, no matter how uncomfortable you think it's going to be, but if you start yelling, I'm going to turn it off. And so in that moment when she was yelling at me, which was so unexpected, I felt, you know how you can experience like multiple emotions within 3 seconds. You know, I was hurt, I was shocked, I was disappointed. What was running through my mind was, well, if you teach people how to treat you, I can't let her treat me this way. I need her to apologize, but she'll never apologize because her idea of apology is to say, "I'm sorry you have such thin skin." I mean, she's, you know, I mean, you know. I was trying to understand what would trigger this thing. You know, well, I know she can get defensive, and she had a tough upbringing, and all this. And all of this is happening in my mind all at once, and I went, I'm going to get my purse, and I'm going to leave. That's the only thing I could think to do. Because if I tried to address it in that moment, I know it would just escalate. She was not in a state where she just wanted to discuss it and talk it through. So I got my purse and I started walking out the door, and she then was upset because, well, I set aside this day or to do something, and all I said was, I'm not feeling very comfortable in this moment. I'll talk to you later. And so I left. And all the way home, all those same thoughts are coming into my mind, and it bothered me on a lot of levels. And I thought, this feels this feels transformative in a lot of ways. Like something has to change in this relationship that she thinks it's okay to talk to me this way. Or maybe something has to change in some other way. But all I know is that I wasn't feeling really good about it, and it wasn't going away. This feeling of discontent was not going away. And a couple of weeks went by, and I didn't talk to her, and she didn't call me, and, there's all this stuff. So anyway, one day I thought, I got to work. I'm stuck in the problem. I knew I was stuck in the problem of she needs to apologize, or we need to talk it through, or we need to do this, or she needs to do that, and I wanted to get out of the idea of need. So I called Silent Unity. And I've mentioned this before. Those of you who ever find yourself really needing an extra boost should call Silent Unity. I don't know how they do it. Brian used to work there. He knows the trade secrets. But somehow when you call with whatever the problem is, they have a solution. They have the right thing for you to say, for them to say. And so what she said was, just remember, God is in the situation. God is in her as God is in you. And I have to tell you that it didn't occur to me that God was in her. And actually, it's true. We say this all the time. God is all there is. God is in everything, everywhere. And, omnipotent, whatever word you grew up with learning about that. But so God is everywhere. The only exception to that I've heard of, though, is my brother-in-law. He was between jobs, corporate jobs, and he thought, well, I'm between corporate jobs. I think I'll try being a substitute teacher for a while. So he got an assignment, a 5-day assignment to go teach 7th and 8th graders. And he came home, and this is just a funny coincidence. He came home that first day, and my sister said, how'd it go? And he said, God was not in that room. Anyway, that exception aside, God is everywhere. But that wasn't, so I thought, okay, that's interesting. Thanks for the reminder. But it's still, she kept talking about harmony and stepping back and letting the solution present itself. That since God was in this problem, that God would present a solution, and all I had to do is get out of my own way. Easier said than done, right? Yeah. But so I decided to meditate on it, and suddenly I remembered, we studied to be a licensed Unity teacher. You study for, I don't know, it can be years depending on how much time you can devote to it. But you study all kinds of things that they just don't talk about anymore. And one of the things they talked about, and there's a book on it, and you can go to the website and learn about it, is the 12 powers. That we access this idea of God, since God isn't really a thing, a man, or, it's a presence. But how do we access that? And we access that through these 12 powers. And to say that God is in the situation didn't have as much meaning as to say, well, wait, for me, as to say, all right, well, what are the attributes of God? What are the things that I can connect to that present itself as God in a situation? There's love, certainly God is love, we hear that all the time. There's life, there's wisdom, there's strength, there's understanding, there's will. Let's see, what else? There's zeal, elimination or release, order, law, and there's 2 others that clearly I need to learn, but they doesn't. But and I went, that's it. I felt like to get out of the problem and into the solution, I needed to step away from how it had to look. Maybe she didn't have to apologize. Maybe I don't have to call out all her shortcomings in a conversation when everything's, So I thought, well, what is it that I'm trying to get at here? What's my ultimate goal? And my ultimate goal was understanding that's an attribute of God between us, and moving forward and reaching a different level in our relationship, because I didn't want to continue to have this pattern repeat itself. So to get there, I called her and I said, I want to apologize for not having the wisdom, which is an attribute of God, or the strength to talk to you in that moment about what was bothering me. And I hope you know that I love you, another attribute of God, by the way. And I wish nothing but the best for you. And she said, okay. Now, she didn't apologize. Nothing, but something shifted. I could tell. Something shifted, and I'll tell you how I know. A couple weeks ago, we were with a third friend, and we were out and about, and somehow, a political discussion broke out. Ugh. And you know, for the most part, we were okay with it, but my close friend said, you know, to the third person, well, what do you think about X? And the third person shared what he thought about X. And we went on a little bit. And I said, well, then what do you think about Y? And my girlfriend says, oh, I don't want to, you know, I can't talk about this. This was supposed to be a nice walk. Why are we getting into this political stuff? And I looked at her and I said, wait a minute. You're the one that started off asking about this other thing. Why is it not okay for me? You know, anyway, so we go along and I thought, here we are again. Here we are again. I thought we made a progress, whatever. And then we walked along a little bit more and she stopped and she said, you know what? You're right. And I apologize. I think I'm going to cry because I told you she never apologizes for anything. She says, it wasn't fair of me. And it wasn't fair, to the situation. And I just looked at her and I said, we've reached another level. And I felt really good about that. So here's the thing about remembering the 12 powers. And, we go through life thinking we know what we want. And we always hear these tropes about, build it and they will come, or, have the image in your mind. Oh, imagination. That's one of the other ones of the other attributes of God. We go through the focus of, I want a relationship that looks like this, this, and this, or I want a job that looks like this, this, and this, or I want my family to do this, or I want my health to do that. And what I've come to recognize is that what probably works best is to just accept what is, right? To just accept what is. Now, when you're in alignment with God and you're practicing all of these attributes, which is so easy to do, every day, all the time, what's in your best interest will naturally unfold in front of you. We don't have to work at it, right? If you work in love and you work in light and you work in wisdom and you work in strength and you release things when it's time to release them. And, in fact, I have a part of a story of what's happened to me recently. So some of you know I worked full time during the pandemic on a project for Microsoft. And my profession is event planner, corporate event planner. And, it all went into the toilet when the pandemic happened. So I was very grateful to be called to do this marketing program for Microsoft. But as of earlier this year, the events world started to come back. And I was feeling the stirrings of wanting to get back in there, but I didn't want to let go of this full-time position. It paid really well. I really liked the people. I was still learning a lot of stuff on it. But it was pretty clear as time was going on that this was not where I needed to be. So if you're in tune to what your inspiration is telling you, I finally let it go. I let it go without really knowing what was going to happen next. But it was in that spirit of release. I had to release it. Sometimes there are people and situations and thought processes and opinions and attitudes that you just have to release because they don't serve you anymore. I want to keep talking, but I don't want to. And anyway, since I released that at the end of August, I have basically been nonstop doing events since the beginning of October, and I have no idea where this stuff is coming from, but I kind of do. You know, I opened myself up to whatever was for my highest good. I mean, we hear that expression a lot, right? This or something better. That's an escape clause in every prayer that you do, because we don't really know it's in our highest good. God is in our highest good. God is in the illness that we get, right? God is in the divorce that we have to have, or God is in the unsettled relationships that you have in your life. God is there too. God is there to teach us something, you know, to make us stop and think about, well, what is it in this situation that I have to learn? Even if it's just acceptance. Sometimes that's the only thing you can learn is acceptance. So when you think of, I think of what happened when we started the church. You know, as I said, the highest good is always going to present itself. It's kind of like, do you remember when you were a kid? I don't know if any of you guys did this, but we used to take like a pitcher of water, and we had this mound of dirt. And you roll the water down the dirt, and you'd put a pile of dirt right in front of it to create an obstacle. But somehow the water would just keep moving, but it would just move. It would create a new path, and it would go in it. Well, that's how God operates in our lives, is that we think we want to go here, and we run into an obstacle. But it will always find a way to keep moving where it's supposed to go. And I believe that if you keep your eye on what it is you want rather than the specifics of it, but the feeling or the overall overarching higher purpose. Like with me, it was understanding and I'm moving forward in my relationship with my friend. I couldn't dictate how that was going to present itself. I just knew that that's what I wanted, and it presented itself in ways that I didn't expect. I think that's the same thing that might have happened with this church. You know, it started in a divine discontent with what was happening somewhere else. And at that time, we thought, well, the solution would be, let's start our own ministry, because we weren't getting fed by what we needed at this other one. We can start our own. But really, in any given situation, there's any number of ways this could go. What if we continue to have conversations with the minister and the board and all that stuff? You know, what if we had started a small group of people doing what we wanted to do anyway on the side, and in conjunction with that, you know? What we were looking for was greater participation and greater voice in our ministry. And there's more than one way to get that. In anything you want in your life, you think it has to look a certain way, but there's more than one way. God is infinite. The workings of God, this thing that we call God, is absolutely infinite. And once we really understand that, we don't get bogged down in the details. We don't have to get bogged down in the details. If we keep an eye on what the ultimate goal is, the ultimate feeling, the ultimate joy or harmony that we want. And so I'm grateful for what did transpire with creating the church here. But you know, whenever there's change like that, you give something up too. We lost friends. You know, we created this big hoopla or whatever it did in the minds of certain people, and we lost the support of a big building, a big beautiful building that we could have done things at every day of the week. But there's always going to be trade-offs. There's always going to be trade-offs. So I think of God when we're tapping into God and we're trying to find harmony in our lives. as radio station KGOD. And radio station KGOD is always on. The airwaves are always on, but you just have to tap into the frequency, just like when you turn on your radio, right? And this radio station has 12 channels. So in any given moment, maybe it isn't just love I'm looking for. I'm going to turn the dial and I'm going to look for wisdom. And I'm going to turn the dial again and I'm going to look for the ability to release. And I'm going to turn the dial again and I'm going to look for the order or the law. People get confused about law. How is God like law? And there's a certain way that this works. You open yourself up to all of these things, and it's going to work a certain way. And that's what the law is. No one ever argues with the law of gravity. It works a certain way. And if you try to go against the law of gravity, you learn a really hard lesson, especially if you try jumping off a tall building. Bob likes to talk about when he was 5 years old, he used to see cartoons where people would jump off the roof of the house just with an umbrella. And he did that. The only thing that saved him, he says, is that he was in sports and he knew how to fall. So if you go against God's law, which is, hate and pride and ego and all that stuff, you're gonna learn the hard way that that's not the way that the world works, at least not the way that it works best. And even in the midst of adversity, you hear people. I saw a thing this morning. I was just shocked at how joyful he was. It was a speech by Michael J. Fox. They gave him an honorary Oscar at some thing last night for the Humanitarian Award because of his work in Parkinson's. And he said, I never thought I would come to think this, but this has been a gift. Any sign of adversity that we have in our lives can be a gift. I've heard that from lots of people who've been really sick, and they say, oh my God, I can't believe what I've learned. I can't believe what I've experienced that's so positive about this illness. And we never think of that. We always think of the negative stuff. So anyway, I'm going to just remind you to tune into radio station KGOD as often as you can, because and to do a little bit more exploring into the 12 powers idea, because there's many attributes of God that come into play as we're walking this life. I've had people ask me, how do you know this is all true? How do you know it all works? I said, well, first of all, I'm the original skeptical mystic, so I'm always going to be the first one to ask that question. But I don't know. I don't know. But I know what I see, and I know what I experience. And I'd rather think that this is a better way to go than to try bucking the system, so to speak, and try doing it in any other way. I know that I'm happier when I follow these principles. I know that I like the music on KGOD. It's got a beat and you can dance to it. So, amen. All right, so I'm going to close with my absolute favorite poem from James Dillett Freeman. And when you hear this, it's I Am There. And as you know, or you may or may not know, this was he was in the hospital room for his wife. His wife was having serious surgery in 1947. And he was going to make a bargain with God. How do I know you're there? And I need you now. I need to know you're there. And he said what popped into his head was this very first line, do you need me? And so I'll read that for you. But keep in mind as I read this that God is not this thing, this person, this puppet master, this thing that controls every moment of your life, and that somehow we're all predestined to do a certain thing. One of the things that drives me a little crazy is when people say, it was meant to be. There's a lot of things that are meant to be. Like I said, sometimes if you're only looking for joy and prosperity. There's many ways to get there. The way you got there is not the only way. It's all meant to be. God only expects our highest good when we participate and when we cooperate. But this idea of the solution is always there. I am there. The solution to anything you're experiencing is always there. You just have to tune into the right frequency. So if you want to just get a little settled in and really focus your attention, I will read this, as I have many times. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions. I am not mysteries. Only in the absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am, and then only as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there, yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray and when you don't pray. I am in you and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, because only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Yet only in your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all, and I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers, because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. And just sit with that idea that no matter what we do, no matter what challenge we encounter, no matter what joy we experience, that we have this support system. It's not a little light of mine that's shining. It's a big giant bonfire that can shine in the world if you just tune into the right frequency. And with that, I say thank you very much. Thank you for 23 fantastic years, and here's to the next 23.